The clamour by top companies to get employees to return to the office is only getting louder. India's top IT companies, TCS, Infosys and Wipro, are all sending out strong messages for employees to return to physical work. And now the large audit firms such as EY and KPMG have also sent out emails to employees to come to their designated offices. Now, why is it taking that long for employees to return to the office? After all, it's been 2 years since the world has returned to normal after the pandemic. Joining me to answer this question, Chandnani, Managing Director, Advisory and Transaction Services, CBRE India, Vikram Ahuja, Managing Director, ANSR and co-founder and CEO of Talent 500, and Juggy Marwaha, CEO, Prestige Office Ventures. Now, we've got all three sides covered, somebody who's actually interacting with people and, of course, an IPC and the CEO of one of the largest office portfolios in India. Why are we discussing this on the Property Show? Simply because it does affect the prices of a listed REIT, India's how much office space is leased. But Vikram, my first question is to you. You know, in December 2022, ADP Research Institute's People at Work report said that not only globally, even in India, 76% of employees want to have control over their work hours and are willing to take a pay cut to work remotely or get a hybrid work model. So what's going on? Why are they so reluctant to come back? I mean, developers and tenants are laying the red carpet for them, every facility. I mean, they have fancy coffee machines, great sports facilities, gyms, open green spaces, biophilic design, but it's still not enticing people back quick enough.
Well, you know, I think one of the things that the pandemic did is introduced the concept of flexibility to all of us, flexibility in terms of how you live and how you work. And it's addictive for a lot of professionals. The comfort and convenience of working out of their homes or working out of their hometowns is extremely attractive. Now, that said, that is changing. As much as people are saying they would like to have control over their work and life, what we're also seeing is that working from home only has a negative impact on productivity and growth. A lot of professionals report that they're unable to form, social connections with colleagues. The learning isn't as steep. And more importantly, the idea of culture and community is getting missed out.
All right. So that's a tall ask and task for large developers who are now building office parks or even to retrofit or reinvent their existing ones. Juggy Marwaha, listed REITs have reported not that long ago that, they've witnessed a little less than 50% footfall back at physical offices, right? It's definitely something that's worrying them. Are you expecting this to improve and how dramatically?
Thanks, Manisha. I think, the last 2-3 years has been completely, transformational in terms of the way people respond to work. On a lighter note, apart from offering beer, we're doing everything in our parks to get people back. Neck massages, food on delivery, everything delivered to them. I think people must appreciate that coming back to work is the only way people can actually collaborate, grow their businesses in a much better. I was in Singapore last 3 days at a real estate conference, and there was a company that hired about 50 people during the COVID period. And when they actually physically came back to work, only 10 of them actually survived collaborating with each other because, doing business remotely is very different from actually collaborating, which is a real business. I think people have realized our parks are only about 45-50%, but with this last 2 weeks of, headwinds that we are all facing in the global world, I think it's a matter of time that people will start nudging, the companies will start nudging their people to come back to work. And it's just, I think, round the corner.
I mean, there are 3 bank collapses. Really, there is a global shakeout right now, or at least a tremor which has begun. But I liked what Vikram said, and I think I'm also seeing this all around me, that hybrid work is here to stay. Ram, what does this mean for India's office leasing uptake? I mean, we've seen a fantastic period pre-COVID. Leasing was just going up in one direction. Net leasing was improving year on year. We touched an all-time high in 2019. But since then, those numbers haven't been achieved.
Hi, Manisha. Great question. If you look at 2019, as you mentioned, we saw a historic high of 65. And last year was a good comeback here, 22, where we saw 56.5 million square feet of gross absorption. Cities that really stacked up were Bangalore, NCR. We saw Mumbai pick up. We saw Chennai pick up, Pune pick up. We saw Hyderabad slower than expected. We saw a lot of tier 2, tier 3 cities pick up. Calcutta pick up. This year again, we see the numbers, and we're not yet closed on the first quarter. But this year again, in the first quarter, we'll expect close to a 10 million square feet gross absorption, which the numbers are picking up. Clients are hiring employees across the board. You see the banking, financial services sector, you see the tech sector, you see the engineering, manufacturing sector. And a lot of times, obviously, with the global situation, a lot of companies are not really committing to capital today. Because if they go in for approvals, they need to commit to a lease of 5 years. And obviously, with capital layouts, etc., the budgets are not being approved. So obviously, the flex ecosystem is helping sustain the occupiers to be able to commit to shorter lock-ins and go into flex environments for their immediate needs.
All right. Vikram, so yes, that is my question, and Ram has kind of addressed it. When there are global headwinds and those economies are so jittery with inflation biting them, is it more work which gets offshored to countries like India, which will probably then set off this entire pinch of both hybrid work as well as not taking large floor plates? What's been your own experience? Because not only are you managing spaces, you're also actually hiring talent for these companies.
Sure. Thanks, Manisha. And Manisha, the context within which we operate is helping global businesses set up large capability centers. What we've seen is, despite the slowdown, large global enterprises continue to grow, continue to hire. There is a much more important path towards technology transformation that these companies are taking, which means that their growth paths are set for 5 years. So we're seeing, quite surprisingly, actually, that the numbers and projected growth estimates continue to hold good. And what that means is that there is an increasing demand to create, spaces that can bring these teams together. We spoke about the changing nature of the office. We're finding that office spaces are becoming less dense. We're finding that office spaces are becoming more collaborative, more experimental, and what that really means is that the office is not going away. And then finally, I think to add, India's position as a destination globally, or as the capital of for R&D and technology growth globally, has been well established. We employ about 1.5 million professionals today working within centers for global companies, and that number is continuing to increase at 15 to 20% year on year. What that I think all in all, it's positive headwinds for both the technology industry as well as the adjacent sort of commercial real estate industries in India. And we're very optimistic. We continue to see growth. We've signed some of our largest real estate deals during the pandemic. We've signed some of our largest growth deals for some of our global companies during the time post-pandemic. So, extremely optimistic about where we're headed. And I think this means that, two things. People are going to continue to respect and appreciate the office in whatever form it takes, and it'll continue to hold its space as a place to bring about community culture, integration, so on and so forth.
Right. So you're saying the office is not going away anywhere. Let me get a reaction from Juggy, and this one is because it's a little bit more number driven. I'd like the developer to come in. Hyderabad, I mean, I'm hearing this conversation, Juggy, all around me. Hyderabad's now become actually an oversupplied office market. Rentals are under pressure. There are buildings, people are on Twitter saying, which are, ready but completely no lights there, so they're not occupied. And when a global company is coming, yes, Bangalore may not have space, but they actually have an option to move to Hyderabad. It's not as if they're stuck to any one geography. What does this interchangeability mean for the key office markets? I mean, numbers might be looking good, but no one's right now talking about net leasing. Everyone's sticking to the gross leasing numbers, and as a journalist, I'm a little bit suspicious of that.
Good point. Globally, Manisha, any markets which are much matured in nature, and if the vacancy level goes above 10 to 12 or 14%, there are reasons to worry.
Let me quickly get a concluding remark from Ram. Ram, do you believe that will actually not touch other markets at all? Or I'm coming back to interchangeability. I mean, when there's so much supply at such cheap rates with infrastructure, will large tenants not move there, the future tenants?
We're seeing quite a bit of activity. No doubt last year we saw the numbers of absorption come down in Hyderabad, but relevant parks are still getting to have clients commit to it. So if you look at Hyderabad, it's divided by the IT corridor and the extended IT corridor. Majority of the actions in the IT corridor and what the parks have really created to attract occupiers and their employees, bars, restaurants, F&B is really what the buzz is. And those are the parks that are seeing continued leasing. Locations do matter. Of course, the oversupply situation does continue in Hyderabad. And a lot of that supply is under SEZ regime. India has 33 million square feet of vacant space under the SEZ regime. So unfortunately, the government hasn't taken a call on how to fix the SEZ to make it more attractive for occupiers to look at that space. So unfortunately, there's not too much leasing happening there. But relevant parks, relevant product is leasing.
Okay.
And will continue to lease.
Final question, and this one is for Vikram. When do you think we'll get to 100% occupancy? 100 is a bit, when I mean footfalls returning to work, not occupancy. Occupancy is a different matrix. But do you give it 2 years, 3 years, a longer period? Offices to fill up.
Sure. And I think that's a tough question. I think for a lot of businesses, the question is, do they actually want to get back to 100% occupancy? I think the magic of hybrid work allows for a lot more flexibility, even from a business perspective. We are starting to see signs of companies that are now asking employees to start, making those 2 days in office, 3 days, and, in some cases, 4 days. Some business functions have returned back 5 days. I expect that the next 9 to 12 months will really sort of decide, what the future of hybrid work will look like. But just with looking at a crystal sort of gaze here and saying where we get to, I will forecast that certain functions may never really need to return back to office, while certain others will return back maybe 100% in the next 12 to 18 months.
All right, we'll leave it at that on a positive note, both for leasing and the fact that, a global jittery economy will actually bring in more occupiers to India, and hybrid is here to stay, which is great for employees like us. I don't mind it at all. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we return, we shift our focus from offices to homes. The turnaround in India's luxury housing market is astounding, going by the record-breaking sales of all units in DLF's high-rise residence project, the Arbor in Gurgaon.